You are standing on the deck of a ship. The glacier in front of you is dissolving into the sea. You traveled thousands of miles to see this ice before it disappears. But the real reason it is vanishing faster right now is something you can see but haven't noticed. It is the exhaust from your own ship. The very cruise that brought you here is accelerating the glacier's death. How does that work? The engine that pushes you through the fjord sends more than CO2 into the sky. It sends tiny black particles. Soot. That soot is landing on the glacier right now. It darkens the surface. It makes the ice absorb more of the sun's heat. And it causes the ice to melt up to 20% faster. It's not abstract. A researcher named Dr. Sarah Doherty has spent years studying how black carbon settles on snow and ice. She found that just a few parts per billion of soot can dramatically reduce the surface's reflectivity. Reflectivity has a scientific name, albedo. Why does albedo matter? Clean ice can reflect more than 90% of sunlight back into space. Dirty ice absorbs that energy instead. That energy turns directly into heat. That heat eats away at the glacier's surface. A glaciologist in Alaska, Dr. Aaron Hood, led a study on this very effect in the fjords you might be sailing into. He and his team measured exactly how much faster ice melts when coated with black carbon. They found it melts 15 to 20% faster. What does that mean in real terms? Not in a century. Right now. This year. The exhaust from your ship is cutting the glacier's lifespan short by months or years. And your ship is not a minor polluter. How dirty is cruising? Cruise ships are among the most polluting forms of travel per passenger per day. A marine emissions researcher named Brian Comer at the International Council on Clean Transportation has quantified it. One person on a cruise can generate 3 to 4 times more black carbon per day than a person driving a car, sometimes more. On a large modern cruise ship, the engines burn heavy fuel oil. That's a thick, tar-like substance left after gasoline and diesel are extracted from crude. It's cheap and legal. And it produces an extraordinary amount of black soot when burned. The particles are microscopic, smaller than the width of a human hair. But in the cold air above a glacier, they do not just float away harmlessly. They get caught in downward air currents. They fall onto the ice. Some travel for miles. But many hit the surface within a few kilometers of the ship's smokestack. Then they stick immediately, but you cannot see them as individual specks. Over hours and weeks, they accumulate. The pure white surface gains a faint grayish tint subtle enough that your brain edits it out. You look at the glacier and see majestic blue-white. Your brain doesn't register the veneer of pollution, but the sun registers it, and the ice registers it. The albedo drops. The glacier begins to sweat. This is where the feedback loop tightens. The glacier melts, and more meltwater appears. Meltwater is darker than ice. It absorbs even more sunlight. So the melting accelerates further. A single cruise ship visit can leave a measurable signature on the surface for days. During peak tourist season, dozens of ships can visit one glacier in a summer. Each one lays down a fresh layer of soot. That adds up to a steady darkening throughout the warm months. And the warm months are getting longer anyway because of climate change. The background warming is already stressing the ice. Your black carbon is an added punch that the system cannot absorb. Now, here is the part that might make you feel slightly sick. You had good intentions. You did not come here to destroy anything. You came because you read an article about glaciers retreating. You saw a documentary with a calving iceberg. You felt a pull, a desire to witness something ancient and rare before it vanishes. That pull is as old as your species. Your ancestors were drawn to things that were exceptional and fleeting. A once-in-a-generation fruit harvest. A migration of animals that only passes through once. The instinct to seek out scarcity made evolutionary sense. Collecting rare resources boosted your chances of survival. But what happens when that instinct meets a diesel-powered vessel holding thousands of people? You are carrying a Stone Age urge into a system that turns that urge into destruction. That is the evolutionary mismatch at the heart of last chance tourism. You are not designed to perceive the invisible connection between your desire and the soot on the ice. Your ancient brain is wired for immediate, visible threats. A predator in the grass. A storm cloud on the horizon. Not a microgram of carbon landing on a distant glacier, so you don't feel the link. But the link feels you. The glacier feels you. Every time you snap a photo, the engine is humming below deck. Every time you gasp at the beauty, a fresh plume of soot is drifting into the wind. There is a deep grief in this equation, grief that gets tangled up with guilt. You wanted to love the ice, but your love became part of its undoing. This is not a guilt trip designed by an activist. It's a physical fact recorded in ice cores and melt measurements. Scientists can drill into a glacier and find exactly which layers show spikes of industrial soot. They can match those layers to the summer cruise calendars. The evidence is not a metaphor. It's laminated in the ice, and it's happening right now as you watch. The exhaust stack behind you is humming. The vibration comes up through the deck into your shoes. You might smell the faint sulfur, the burnt oil. That smell is the scent of the glacier's darkening blanket. It is not just fuel, it is the glacier's future heating up in the open air. Now you might ask, if I didn't come, would the glacier be saved? The question is fair. A single trip is a tiny fraction of the problem. But the aggregate of all last chance tourists is not tiny. Over 500,000 people visit these shrinking glaciers every year. Most of them arrive by cruise ship. The total black carbon deposited each summer is measured in tons, small in global terms, but concentrated exactly where the ice is most vulnerable. This is why park rangers and indigenous communities are demanding cleaner fuels and speed limits. They know that the tourists are not malicious. They also know that the math doesn't care about good intentions. So how do you sit with this? Do you swear off all travel forever? Probably not. Do you pretend the link doesn't exist and enjoy the view? That's the most human response. Your brain will filter out the discomfort, but there is another option. You can let the disgust in. Really feel the wrongness of the oil-slicked soot on that ancient white. Let it clash with the beauty. Hold both truths in your mind at once. That is the fragile equilibrium the glacier itself is losing. It's the self-destructive loop of last chance tourism. You come because you care, and you harm because you came. The ice becomes both relic and sacrifice, a memorial to a world you're helping to erase. And this loop isn't unique to glaciers. People fly to see the Great Barrier Reef before it bleaches further. They take motorboats into the Amazon to see a sliver of the forest before it's logged. The desire to witness each vanishing wonder generates more emissions, more black carbon, more direct stress. The planet's rarest places are now being loved to death at an accelerated pace. The mismatch is global. Your brain still thinks rare things must be gathered, but now gathering means accelerating their demise. The ship's engine rumbles again as the captain adjusts course. A chunk of ice the size of a house breaks off and crashes into the sea. The sound is thunderous. The crowd gasps. You feel it in your chest. You might take a photo. The glacier will melt a little more tonight, not only because of carbon dioxide emitted decades ago, but because of the soot that landed this afternoon. The soot your voyage just laid down. It will sit there all summer, absorbing sunlight, trickling meltwater. Tomorrow's visitors will see a slightly smaller version of what you saw. Their ship will add its own layer. The glacier shrinks, and the loop tightens. One day, perhaps, you will show the photo to a child. You will say, I went there to see the ice before it was gone. And a small part of the melting will have your story tangled up in it. The child might ask why the ice disappeared. The answer is complex, but one thread is unmistakable. The ship that took you there to say goodbye is the same ship that helped shutter the door. You stand on the deck, watching the glacier recede into the fog. The air still smells of salt and diesel. The glacier still cracks and moans, but now you know what the sound carries. It carries the heat of your effort to witness it. The glacier you came to see is melting the glacier you came to see. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel. A new story every week.